So it feels like he's your enemy. He may even act like he's your enemy. But I need you to know today that your husband is not the real enemy. And today I'm going to give you 3 ways to tell when the enemy is actually using your husband, influencing your husband, oppressing your husband, and what you can do about it. Now, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Erica of Erica Davenport Ministries, and this is episode 3 of the Wives That War podcast. And today I'm going to show you how to discern when it's the enemy and how to win against his tactics. So you may be in a season where your husband ignores you, he doesn't take accountability for his actions. It doesn't seem like he wants to work on the marriage. It feels like he just checked out and you're left alone trying to figure out how to fix this by yourself. Now, we already know that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but it's funny that the enemy chooses to use flesh and blood. And you have to understand when you are in a battle in your marriage, why he does this. His number one strategy since the garden is deception. The enemy uses flesh and blood because that will cause us to look at flesh and blood. He wants to have your spouse looking at you crazy and you looking at him crazy. He wants us to blame one another. He wants us to look like the enemy so that him, the real enemy, can keep doing the damage that he's trying to do. And so you have to understand, your husband may look like the enemy. He may be in agreement with the enemy, knowingly and unknowingly. But behind the chaos and the craziness and the confusion is the enemy named Satan. And so this isn't all inclusive. He will come in many ways. And this isn't an episode that excuses wives, because he can use us too. There were seasons in my marriage where I'm not the woman I used to be. I was less healed. I was less mature. I was less delivered, and the enemy could use me. And so this isn't an excuse, and isn't just to place blame on the husbands, but this particular episode is to help the wife to identify when the enemy is using him and to give you the strategy on how to overcome it. And so the first one is the unexpected hostility or the personality shift. This is where your husband just suddenly snaps, or he becomes cold or distant and just mean over something maybe minor or for no reason at all. And it, maybe something small happened and it normally wouldn't bother him, but it just feels like, who is this person and what just happened? It feels like now you're talking to a stranger, or you're talking to just this distant, withdrawn person. It's just like with the snap, something happened and he might even look different. Sometimes when the enemy is utilizing your spouse, you can see a change even in their eyes. So if you experience moments, or if you have experienced moments where just out of nowhere, he woke up with a different type of spirit. He woke up like just with an attitude. He woke up snappy. Or y'all went to church and you had a great church service, but he came home funny or weird. This is a sign of the unexpected hostility or just the personality shift. And it usually comes from a lie he may place in their head at a moment, a memory, be it true or not true, that he will bring to their remembrance just at the right time. It may be, just his own trauma. It's all the reasons, but you have to identify when it happens. When that does happen and there's no rhyme or reason, there's no logical explanation, y'all didn't get into no argument, you didn't address his behavior, it's just out of nowhere. This is where you have to realize that the enemy has gained influence, and he will often place a cloud of heaviness or agitation on your husband to provoke you. Men are under a lot of pressure. And what I found, even in marriages that are suffering and not going great. Like there's a great man beneath all the oppression. Like the men do want to provide. So he may be planting seeds of shame and doubt and self-condemnation. But the goal is to place this on him so that he can provoke you. He want to provoke a reaction from you. And when it comes to warring in your marriage, you have to keep a calm, cool demeanor. And I haven't always done that. I'm learning, right? There's a scripture that says, in quietness and calmness will be my strength. So instead of giving it energy and attention, instead of trying to fix it or argue, instead of matching energy, there's a couple things you can do. And remember in episode 2, we talked about strategy. We have to constantly go before God and say, what's the strategy for this situation? But it's okay to ask, are you okay? I noticed a shift in your attitude. Is there something on your mind? Can I pray for you? Don't give opportunity for him to blame you. Did I say something? Did I do something? Don't come in that way, but just let him know I'm available. I'm not sure what happened. If you want to talk, if you want prayer, I'm available, but then give him his space. Don't lend energy. You cannot, one of the things the Lord is teaching me, you cannot feed certain spirits because they will just grow and grow and grow. So you can still be that gentle, available wife by saying, is there something you need to talk about? But if he snap, if he say no, if it's just the bland, I'm fine, let him, right? If it rubs you the wrong way, because sometimes it does. I don't know about you, but sometimes a sudden shift in attitudes or the unwillingness. I am a extremely verbal person and I love to talk about it and I love to work things out. And my husband is the opposite. He's not always forthcoming with his feelings and his emotions. So I have to go find another outlet, right? I will have to go walk and talk to God like, God, I don't know what's wrong with him, or God, I don't know, but that's agitating to me, or I'll call my prayer partner. You know what I mean? So find an outlet for you so that same coldness and distance and shift doesn't attach itself to you, because demonic spirits are very contagious if we're not careful. You know what I mean? And I can't tell you how many times, I don't even know what we got an attitude for, but I got one now because you got one. And as I continue to grow and mature, I have learned not to lend energy, not to lend my emotional capacity, and to protect my peace and my power. When you are constantly trying to, fix something that you cannot fix, it just depletes your emotional energy, your spiritual energy, your mental capacity. And we got too much stuff we got to do. And, instead go pray to the Lord about how you feeling, but then pray for your husband. Lord, whatever's bothering him, I bring it to you. If he's not willing to talk to me, I pray that he's willing to talk to someone else, right? You just have to release it and you have to give it to God. Another sign that the enemy has just kind of suddenly come in is what we're calling the fog of confusion or the communication breakdown, right? So this may be a sign when every time you try to speak out about something meaningful or important or necessary, he gets confused, he gets defensive, or he just kind of shuts down completely. It feels like a wall is up. So the enemy's strategy here is to use communication barriers to keep you from reaching a place of unity, agreement, or connection. If your husband can't hear your heart, you're left feeling alone and helpless and hopeless. And this is what the enemy wants to do. So, we know without good communication, no relationship can stand, not even our relationship with God. If we're not praying and talking to God, if we're not expressing our feelings, if we're not in, fellowship with the Lord, how can we have a good relationship? He knows the power of communication in a marriage. And so the moment you pick up on this, don't keep trying to force the conversation. Don't press the issue. This has happened especially being the verbal person that I am. This has caused so many preventable blowups in my marriage because I am trying to force communication. I'm trying to force my point across. I'm trying to force this man to understand what I'm saying. I'm picking the wrong time to have conversation. When there's this communication breakdown, don't add to the breakdown, right? The moment you discern this, don't argue. Stop communicating. Get quiet. You cannot win a spiritual battle with natural words. Like you have to really do what I call take all complaints to corporate, right? You take all the concerns and frustrations, the desires, what you would, want to say to your husband and take it to God, take it to a safe sis, who can relate, who can speak into you, who can listen to you. Take it to your prayer partner, but you cannot keep adding flames to the fire. When you recognize, okay, he's not receiving this, it's not registering, he doesn't want to talk about this, he's not going to take accountability. Don't keep trying to press the issue. And this is what I've learned over the years. You begin to develop a confidence in God. God is much more able to communicate my needs, my desires. He's much more able to bring important issues to my husband than I am. Naturally, yes, we should be able to talk about everything, but we are all in different places of healing, of freedom, of maturity, right? And so this doesn't give anybody a pass, but you learn how to be wiser in communication. You learn how to, believe your husband when he say, I don't want to communicate. You can't force it. And these are just some of the mistakes that I know that I've made over the years, trying to force it, trying to get him to get it. And especially when that communication fog is in place, like 9 times out of 10, even if you're going on and on and on, and it appears that he's listening, it's not even registering. The wall is up, the defenses are up, and you're going to probably see a repeat of the same thing you said you didn't want to see, when you're talking about it. So that's how you got to recognize in the moment the enemy has come in to distort communication. And you have to be really careful there too, because the enemy loves to twist your words when he already has a place in your marriage, when he's already attacking your marriage, when he's already been working on your marriage. You have to be really careful too, because I've seen this so many times with, personally and professionally, where your words are just twisted and you like, what in the name? I know I ain't say that. But the enemy will begin to alter the air and alter what they hear, and this can be vice versa as well, and so you have to learn in those moments to get quiet, go before God, journal, talk to a prayer partner, wait for a better time, you know what I mean? But again, this is strategy and how to fight when the enemy decides he wants to use your husband in this way. And then one of the other ones that you can probably relate to is the isolated man or the withdrawal. This is, when maybe he immerses himself into hobbies or work or church. It seems like everything is more important than home. When he's really just digging into things outside of the home, not really because he's really busy, but it's more so an act of avoidance, right? He wants to avoid the accountability, avoid the conversations. Maybe you want to just avoid confrontation. My husband is very non-confrontational, but sometimes that doesn't work well because he would rather not talk about things that needs to be talked about. And so you never know, but more times than not, when there's just this sudden withdrawal or isolation or a pattern where you see like, oh, he's, spending more and more time away from home. He's spending more and more time, at work, or even when he's not at work, he's filling up his space. He's visiting a parent or, he's doing something to stay away from home. This is the enemy again, because he loves to isolate husbands. He loves to isolate wives. So he'll whisper, you're failing, you're not wanted, you're not heard. Like I said, it could work either way, right? He wants to, sometimes your husband may avoid you because the enemy got him looking at you crazy. He think you the problem. He think you the enemy. He think you the reason why, and this is the strategy of the enemy. And so he causes them to retreat from the very person who's meant to be their help. And again, men like to fix things too, but we like to control things. And we like, come on, like, let's go. Let's talk about it and get over it. But this is again where you have to let him withdraw. You have to let him pull away to the hobbies, the work, the church. That doesn't mean you can't express, hey, I'm missing you. Hey, I notice you're like not real present at home. Or even when you are at home, you're not present at home. If you feel led to say it. But this is again a strategy on how to fight back. Don't try to draw near to your husband when he's pulling away from you. The Bible tells us when we draw near to God, he draws near to us. So replace your desire to draw near to your husband with an opportunity to draw near to God. And I know it probably, we're Christian sisters here, so we understand it, but I know it probably seemed like every answer is God, God, God. But I kid you not, every answer for me has been God, God, God. I would not have made it this far. I wouldn't be about to enter into year 14 if it wasn't God, God, God. I would have left a long time ago. I would have probably been a wreck. I would have flipped a long time ago. He is the safe space. He is the help. He is the 3-strand cord that cannot be broken. He is the one that holds us together when we don't want to be together. And so I'm telling you this, not just because I'm a Christian and I believe Jesus, but because it works. It's working for me. We ain't past tense. It's working. I still have to draw near to God. I still have to take all complaints to corporate. And sometimes the Lord will tell you when you go to him and you address the withdrawal, sometimes he'll tell you to counteract it with an act of kindness. And that's the hardest one. It's very humbling. But I'm sure you know by now, it ain't nothing like marriage to make us more into the image of Christ. So while he's being funky, nasty, withdrawn, God may say, go give him a hug, go give him a kiss, go ahead and make his plate. You know what I mean? He may tell you to do something that you like, what? No, But the truth is the enemy wants you to lose your head. He wants you to, so to speak, pay evil with evil. He wants you to match energy. God will give you strategy. He will tell you how to fight the battle of withdrawal when it comes, and you have to obey because it's the best one, right? There are so many times where God in the Bible, he used blessings as a weapon. So there are times, sis, where you're going to have to use the opposite spirit. If he's being cold and distant, you respond with a small, unexpected, act of kindness, a word of affirmation. This will break the enemy cycle of escalation. You know what I mean? And because I'm team you, I'm team wife, it gives you your own power back. You begin to take little by little, because what you don't realize, especially if you've been in warfare for years and the enemy has had you looking at your spouse as the enemy for years, little by little, you've been giving away your power. You've been giving away your peace. And so when you begin to counteract that by not matching energy, but instead extending love and forgiveness and peace, you're taking your power back. You strengthening your own self, because you no longer are moved by their moods. You're no longer moved by what you don't get. You are steady and firm in your identity and in Christ. So again, you always just have to be prayerful. There will be times where God said, just leave him alone. Don't give him no energy. Let him withdraw. He'll be back around. He'll come back around. Again, you cannot war and you cannot win these spiritual battles using natural weapons, right? We have to go to God day by day, battle by battle, and we have to fight with wisdom. We have to fight with the armor that God has given us. And so the verse for this episode I want to leave you with is Romans 12:1, which says, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." And if you've been in the trenches for a long time, if you've been in war for a long time, that's easier said than done. Because sometimes you just get flat out sick of it. Like, you know what? Nah, I got time today. Sometimes me and my best friend in our less mature wife moments, we'll be like, yeah, I got time today. Trying to like, nah, I got time. We're going to argue about this one today. But no, overcome evil with good. And so you may have to go to God. I challenge you, when you're met with moments where the enemy has slid in, but ask that, okay, Lord, what's the good thing here? He's giving me the silent treatment. How can I overcome this with good? He may say, remain silent. He may say an act of kindness. He may say, go pray. He may say, go fast. He may say, just call your girl. You know what I mean? Y'all can vent together. Whatever it is, my challenge to you is when you begin to discern, like, yep, the enemy done slid in. He done lied to him. He done beat him up. Just like the enemy want to try to, isolate us and beat us up on the ropes. He want to do the same thing to your husband. And so you just pray, okay, God, what's the good thing here? What do I need? How can I overcome this evil? I ain't saying my husband is evil, but I recognize the evil work. I recognize the evil one at work. And how can I overcome this good today? So I hope that this was another helpful episode. These are my first 3 episodes for this Wives That War podcast. And I would love to know in the comments some subjects and topics and questions you may have as it relates to, battling in this marriage. And thank you again. Be sure to go grab the free guide, 3 major spiritual attacks the enemy uses against marriages. And I'll show you inside how to recognize rejection, pride, and manipulation, and give you scriptures and prayer points and all that good stuff. So be sure to join. Thank you again for joining me on this podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode, sis. Bye.